Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are tuning in from. And happy Friday. Happy first Friday of February of March.
March, yeah.
Actually so excited about March. Well, welcome if you were tuning in live to this either on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. I'd like to introduce you to my special guest. This is Phyllis Rende. She is with Wildly Successful Living. She's a career coach and a personal brand strategist. And today we're going to be talking about how to combat imposter syndrome. And boy, Phyllis, are we in for a good chat, because I have had to combat this quite a bit. So thank you so much for joining us out of Richmond or Farmville, Virginia today. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Well, so again, if you are tuning into this live with us, we'd love to hear from you. So drop us a comment in the chat box, say hello, say where you're from. And if you have any questions throughout this broadcast, definitely ask those questions, because this is such a great conversation. I would say, Phyllis, and you can chime in on this, but a lot of us have dealt with imposter syndrome. Even if we maybe don't admit it, we have. You know, it doesn't matter if you
definitely.
are wildly successful, as you put it, you have dealt with imposter syndrome.
Well, actually, yes. I mean, even the name of my business, Wildly Successful Living, it's not about necessarily being, I mean, we all want to have money. We all want to have, to be noticed. But it's really about, going your own way and forging your own path and not necessarily doing what everyone else is doing. So for me, that part, there's definitely an emphasis on that. And, when you talk about imposter syndrome, men deal with it, absolutely. But I, just as being a woman and having so many female clients, it is something that I see, constantly. I've had to face it myself, and our children. We were talking about earlier, my daughter, she's 14 years old and she's learning the piano. She comes to me today because she can't do something perfectly. And she's like, I'm horrible at this. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, where did this come from? I try to be affirming. I do this for a living, and it just seems it's something that we all face.
No, I get that. Ooh, 1 second. I'm going to mute myself for a sec. All right, hopefully that's better. Good, Phyllis?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my gosh, everybody. I mean, when you like clean your ears out and you're like, wow, I can hear everything.
Well, there's a sign there's no perfection, right? It's just doing what we're doing and, trying to, help people and have, learn and grow ourselves. So
yeah,
it's all part of the process.
I don't know what happened. It just got super loud. And Carl Sean Watkins, thank you for being here. But I think I was commenting to you on my phone and I was like, oh my gosh, something just happened with the mic. Anyway, here we go. This is real live show, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about this a little bit too, Phyllis, because I mean, that's such a pivotal age too, that teenage years where you're trying to figure yourself out and who am I? And I'll be very honest with you. I didn't figure out who I was until I was like close to my 40s. And now I'm 42 and I'm like, dang, I wish I knew this girl back then, because that was not her. This was not the same Tisha. And I've evolved so much.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I feel for these kids. I mean, I have a 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And I mean, I'm constantly trying to lift them up and tell them the same thing and empower them and say, you're awesome. Like, just keep being you. Like, don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to hang out with the popular kids just because you feel like you have to. Like, oh my gosh, so many conversations, hard conversations, especially as a parent.
Oh, definitely. And, it's so funny because you're right. We do want to say, oh, you're great, you're awesome, and it's something that I thought I said the whole time. But, as I knew we were talking about this today, so I said, well, this must have come up. I always look for why something is happening or why this is coming up for me and for my clients. But I really started to think about it. And I'm like, let me ask, I actually started asking her questions instead of just giving her that blind reassurance. like, well, where have you heard this message? Is this something that, I've said or I've made you feel before? And she was like, no. But I was like, well, have you gotten this message from, different places? And so I didn't want to, necessarily like feel like she was being interrogated. But I think that that's actually key, is really, instead of just giving that blind reassurance, really looking about maybe where some of the stuff is coming from.
Right.
And it turned out, she had heard other people, a kid from school saying how horrible he was. And it made me think back to how I may not come out and say how horrible I am at something, but have there been times where I've become very stressed out because something's not going okay?
Right.
And this feeling that she gets when she witnesses this, is there a way of saying everything must run perfectly? Everything must run smoothly? What kind of messages are we giving as parents that we may not even understand? And we give ourselves, even though I may not say, oh, I'm horrible at this or I'm good at this. When something doesn't really go well, how do I act? How do I react? And what can I do differently? So to me, it's really powerful to think about that. And so hopefully, we worked it out today, which was a good outcome.
Good.
And, it was more, but like I said, it's definitely something that we all face. And, I guess until we continue to learn and grow and, keep working at it, it's going to be a struggle, a challenge, which I definitely think can be overcome.
Right. Absolutely. So Carl Sean Watkins is, like I said, he's joining us and he's got his hand raised. Carl, I don't know if you have a comment for that, but I would love to hear from you. So Carl Sean Watkins talks a lot about a vulnerability. That's his kind of his passion of helping people to show their vulnerability. And I think that what we're talking about here too, Phyllis, like we're going to get into how to combat imposter syndrome,
Absolutely.
personal branding, because that's something that both of us are super passionate about.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love for him to chime in the comments on what he's thinking about this topic. Does he meet a lot of people? I think you're raising your hand because maybe you were that person too that's like, I didn't figure this out till I was way later in life.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely, like I was mentioning earlier, did not have this figured out in my 20s and my 30s. I actually like to say, Phyllis, that like my 30s were like, it was a lot of tough love. It was a lot of lessons learned. It was a lot of trying to figure out who I am. And when I think of the words imposter syndrome, I remember always feeling like I had to hype myself up to be part of the group that's super wildly successful and had to play the game. And I just felt, like I would leave events and I was like, that's so heavy. I can't be that person. I don't want to. And I just remember a friend of mine, because I was doing a lot where I was on TV quite a bit. Like I was getting asked and I was being interviewed. And she's like, you show up this way, like you're all like this and that. And she's like, what do you do? Like when you go home, I'm like, I just wipe all that off. I wipe all the makeup off. I put on my sweatpants.
Yes.
I just like,
yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's, the whole point is that we always compare, we compare ourselves to each other. And, I look at you and I said, you're a hero of mine. You are, you're all over the place and you're doing these things and then I thought, I'm like, I love that, and I think if we can kind of take people who may be a little bit further ahead than we are, and instead of comparing, there's a great quote, and I'm going to get this wrong. I don't even know who said it, but don't compare where you are to like your beginning to someone else's middle. So that's, we're continually learning and growing. And, I see you and I'm like, at first I was like, oh, she's so great. And I really envy her. But then I'm like, she's first of all, she's super passionate about what she does, which I am. We have so much in common. And even, if we're in different places, the support that we can give, I mean, that's the most thing is, being open where we are, really just kind of teaching each other along the path. So So yeah, that's how I view the whole thing. I try to view the whole thing. So yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm going to bring in Carl in just a couple of his comments. We were talking about how long did it take you to really figure out who you are? And he's saying, yes, it took me a long time, but I'm so very ready for where I am now. And that's important to note for sure. And you mentioned so many great things too, Phyllis, and what you just said too about, we always try to compare ourselves to people who are miles ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't do that to ourselves. And I mentioned that, like, I go to these networking events. I'm like, who am I to be in this room with these super powerful, amazing women, these 7-figure, 8-figure earners? Like, who am I to be here with these people? And I would belittle myself. I would tell myself, you shouldn't be here, Tish. Like, that's when you hear all those stupid voices in your head that are telling you, you shouldn't be here. You should just leave. You should just go back home. Like, that's when we get down on ourselves. And that's when we're like, oh, forget this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I can't. Like, that's when that negative talk starts to just
absolutely
invade our head.
Absolutely. I think that, I've, like I said, experienced that as well. And I think that one thing that's helped me is when I kind of realized that, if I can take the focus on how successful I look, how successful I think, and say, do I have something to contribute? Can I contribute to the conversation? Can I help other people? Do I have something that I'm passionate about? Which is personal branding, like for you, and about helping women in their careers, do I feel like I have something to say? Can I benefit other people and can I learn from other people? Because I learn from my clients every day. It's not just a one-way street. So when you're talking about that, I think that for me, taking off that emphasis on, how well do I look? How well do I do this? But saying, do I have something that I want to share? Who knows how long we're here for, right? So the fact that we can reach out and genuinely help from that place of vulnerability, like Carl, is, and really just and showing up, and that encourages other people to show up. And I think when we show people we're not perfect, it's better to say, okay, these are my flaws. I'm not great at necessarily everything. And getting back a little bit to the branding, for me, the cornerstone of your brand is what are my strengths? What are my strengths? How am I going to build off that? And it could be, going into social media. It could be, with your networking. It could be all of that stuff. But really, it's about me really knowing who I am, knowing what I'm good at, knowing, and also, knowing what I'm not great at,
right.
And not necessarily maybe, or what I can learn, what I can get better at. So, and I think you do that so well. I mean, I really do. Every time I see you, I can see how much of a heart you have for this work. So, you're always yourself. And, yes, you look very polished, but you're real. And that's the best thing, and being real, being who you are, that's what we all should strive to be.
Absolutely. I have a couple of comments coming in. Royce Blake here. Hello, Mr. Royce Blake, out here in Arizona. So many are afraid of being an expert. You don't have to know everything, just a little more than your audience. Remember, to a 4th grader, a 5th grader is an expert.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Royce, can I just say, my 4th grader is far more an expert than I am. She came to me with all sorts of math questions. And on my head was just exploding. I was like, ask your brother. I don't want to do this. Like, I just kind of buried my head in the sand. I'm like, this stuff's making me crazy. I can't. And then Carl, having a comment here, we have to embrace who we are. Oh my gosh, so on point with what Phyllis just said too. Believe in who we are and grow confidence in who we are. It's all internal. It's not external. Oh, absolutely.
You have such great followers. I love this. I love their comments. I think they're so wise. So yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty blessed. I'm going to release a video a little bit later today, Phyllis, but I like to say this, like, you never know who really is consuming your content. And yes, we have comments coming in, but we actually have a handful of people watching on LinkedIn and probably on YouTube as well. But you show up, and I'm always of that mindset of you show up who you are, how you are today, whatever it is. There's some days where I'm a hot mess, and that's okay. Like there's some days where I record my video and I just came out of the gym. Like I'm like, I don't care. Like I have something to say. And like you said, if you have something to say, if you have something to contribute, if you have some value, then somebody is listening. And I don't care if it's 1 million people that are listening or one person that's listening.
Or one, exactly. Yeah. So, I think that's it. It really is about that, an imposter is such, I mean, Meryl Streep suffers, supposedly. There's a quote running around that she suffers from imposter syndrome. And you're like, no, Meryl Streep. Exactly. How can she, she's considered to be the best actress in the world. But I think that, we all, we get these messages, life gives us these messages that sometimes aren't good enough. But again, when we go back to what do we have to say, can we make the world a better place, even in the smallest way, if it's with our work or with our families or with our businesses, whatever, it's like, can I just make the world a little bit more pleasant and beautiful than it is? And we need that right now more than anything. So, yeah.
I want to say this too, and we have another comment coming in from Carl. So, hello, Phyllis, you just got yourself a new connection. Carl will be following you as well. I love power of connections. I had a woman the other day, and we were talking about personal branding because I also help people with that. And she said something to me, and I've had a couple of people echo this. I'd love to just dive into this conversation with you, Phyllis.
Sure.
Because you've even mentioned, you're like, when I see you, Tisha, you're polished, you're this, you're that. And when I work with people on a personal brand, I'm not saying be my brand. I'm not saying that to them. I'm not saying you have to show up high energy, smiley, positive. Like that's not what I'm saying. I am saying figure out who you are and keep showing up as that person. And she made a comment that she's like, I'm not you, Tisha. Like, I will never be like you. So I can't possibly do the things that you do. And I'm always so taken aback by that because I'm like, you don't have to be me. You don't have to show up in the world like I do. You show up as you and you attract those people. I can't possibly attract 7.5 or maybe now it's 8. All the COVID babies, 8 billion people. I can't possibly do that. And I know when I was starting working on personal branding, a client of mine said, Tisha, the challenge you will have is that you can't turn everybody to be just like you. You can't make them be super smiley, super positive, and I was like, I never asked people to be that way. I'm asking them to figure out, discover who they are internally, bring that to the surface, bring those strengths, bring that light, bring all those things to the surface and do it the way that they show up.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, we have much more in common than I even knew. I think that, that's exactly how I come from it. It's not about being someone else. It's about being the truest form of yourself. Right. Really, and being an introvert can be a great thing. You don't have to be this shiny, happy person. You have to be real. And it's just putting yourself enough out there as who you are, feeling confident in that, and really just being able to show that and connect. When I work, like I said, I don't necessarily, I do my own website work and I love that, but I'm not that person. For me, right where I am right now is working in your career. And a lot of people are like, well, how can you do that? It's like, even your resume, your LinkedIn, let's talk about that. But, it's like showing up and connecting to who you are and finding those opportunities. It's about knowing what you love and knowing what you don't love and reaching out for that. It keeps you from wasting time, wasting your energy. It's really about just recognizing the beauty of who you are and being able to show it.
And let's talk about that for a second too, Phyllis, because I know you do with a lot of career development, career coaching, helping people find their next thing. And I mean, I've had that question asked so many times, who needs a personal brand? And I said, everyone is a personal brand. I don't care if you're an employee, if you're a student, if you're an entrepreneur, you are your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Like, if you know exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you like, what you don't like, it does make that career process a lot easier, because you
Oh,
want to
yes.
surround yourself with the right people. You want to be in the right type of industry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can research those companies. You can decide if you're a good fit for that company.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about that, on when you were career coaching with someone, why do you emphasize that they need to start building that brand in order to really stand out in a crowd?
Well, for me, it's not so much. I used to have I still have a mantra, they can take away your job, but they can't take away your career.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really about who you are. You don't, and I think most people, when you think about, even let's say job searching, you think about job searching, you think about, okay, I'm just looking for this opportunity. I want anybody to hire me. I want, I mean, money is so important, believe me. But when you actually really hone in on, those strengths that you have, and, digging into that, you take that with you everywhere. You
Right.
take that with I mean, the job search, yes, absolutely. Because you're going to attract those people. When you go into an interview and you are so tied into your personal brand and who you are and what you're great at and what you love to do, I'm telling you, you would be amazed at how often you get results, and how people are really wanting to work with you because you love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing, is really loving what you do and being able to communicate that. So if you are, let's say you take this opportunity and you think it's wonderful, and it turns out your boss is a horrible person and you're not getting all of this stuff, and maybe they missold you. Well, a person without a brand is going to feel like, I'm stuck. I'm completely stuck, and I'm stuck with this job forever, and I'm helpless. But when you really know who you are, then you say, okay, let me look at this. Let me actually take this. It's not me. It may be the environment. Maybe I need to go deeper. Maybe I thought this was something that appealed to me, but it doesn't. And then you can say, okay, what can I learn from this? And so how can I be proactive, rather than just saying, okay, I'm stuck, because again, you are your career. It's not about the job.
That's such a great point. Good stuff. All right, Phyllis. Well, I want to give you a minute or so for a little shameless plug. I know you have a
Yeah.
couple of things going on, including a course, and I'm going to put your website up here, and let us know where people can find you. I know you and I follow each other on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, take the stage and let us know about what's coming up in your world.
Okay, well, thanks. Well, again, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I really spend most of my time there. I'm on Instagram as well under Phyllis Rende. I'm on Facebook, but a lot of the stuff, I have my website, which is wildlysuccessful.com, which you see. You can always sign in and get my free opt-in, and then, can give you a little bit of a hint on what I do. And I do mainly one-on-one coaching. I will be starting a group program, looking more towards the fall. And I think that, really focusing in on your brand, how to use that in your career, how to help that with your job search. So we're going to be talking about all of that stuff. One thing I'm doing in my community right now, which is kind of keeping me pretty busy, is I'm opening up a center, a workshop center, and we're going to be focused on career and small business development, also some wellness. So we have like 5,000 square feet here, and it's called WildWorks Collective. So again, going with that whole, being who you are. But really my point with starting here is that had the opportunity. Sometimes when you have the opportunity, you just have to jump on it. So I'm actually going to be having, we're going to be doing workshops. They're going to be very interactive. But one thing that's going to set us apart is that it's really going to be also a place where women can come in and teach their own things. So, like, especially women in the community, we have so many women here who, maybe housewives or maybe, like joining the workforce, aren't really prepared for that. So we'll be helping women with that. And we're also going to allow, let's say, if you have something you love to teach, this is a place you can do it. And unlike, maybe going to, like the library or something, you can monetize. So that's the one thing, is really helping. My passion is helping, especially women, but men too, really reach in and do what they love to do. So at the core, that's what I'm about. So those are the things I have in line.
I love what you have in aligned coming up. Well,
Great.
thank you so much, Phyllis, for joining us today. Such a pleasure having you on Tisha Talks Live. And Royce Blake saying here, design your life. Love it. Yes.
Love it.
I feel like I'm there. And I don't know about you, Phyllis, but I know I mean I can hear it just in your talking, but I think that I've hit that point where I'm designing my life to just be happy and make life. Like you said earlier, like we never know when all of this is going to end. Do what you need to do, be who you are, be the amazing you, and just keep moving forward.
And thank you so much. I really had a great time, and you've made this so wonderful for me. So I appreciate it. And I hope we're going to talk soon. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And just so you guys know, this was Phyllis's first time on a live stream, and I think you crushed it, my friend. I really think you did. Thank you so much for making.
Thank you.
I always pride myself on being people's first networking event, first live stream. It just is such an honor to do that for people. So thank you so much for being here today, and happy March to everyone. Just so you guys know, so Tisha Talks is won't be here next week. It's actually my kiddos' spring break. And just like Royce said, design your life. I am taking some Fridays off to be with my kids, to hang out with them on their spring break. But I will be back on the 18th and then again back in April. So just 2 Tisha Talks lives this month. And Phyllis, thank you for being.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a great Friday, everybody. And we'll see
you too. Bye, guys. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.